The story begins with a man named Roy Pulver, a retired Delta Force soldier. But something impossible has happened to him. He is trapped in a time loop and is forced to live the same day again and again. So far, he has already lived this exact day 139 times. Every time he dies, the day instantly starts over from the beginning. After repeating it so many times, Roy knows almost every second of the day by heart. Every morning at exactly 7 a.m., an assassin breaks into Roy's apartment and tries to kill him and the woman he spent the night with. A few seconds later, a helicopter appears outside his window, and a gunman starts firing into the apartment until the whole place explodes. Since Roy has already seen this happen hundreds of times, he knows exactly where to move and when to react. He dodges every attack with perfect timing and jumps out of the window before the explosion. He lands safely on a truck full of sand waiting below. At first, he failed this jump 22 times, but after so many loops, he finally mastered it. Without wasting a second, Roy steals a nearby car and speeds away. But his escape is far from over. Two deadly female assassins in a minivan immediately start chasing him through the city. Roy has never learned their real names, so he simply calls them Pam and Esmeralda. They keep shooting at him while chasing him through the streets. Roy already knows every turn and every danger on the road. As long as he follows the right path and remembers every small detail, he can stay alive. One of the biggest dangers is a bus that appears at the same place every single day. This time, Roy gets distracted for just a moment and forgets to dodge it. The bus crashes into him, killing him instantly. The moment he dies, the entire day resets again. Every new loop is almost the same, but small things change depending on the choices Roy makes. If he takes a different road, waits a few extra seconds, or forgets even one small step, everything changes. That is why he has spent countless loops trying different ways to survive. The assassins chasing him are always the same. Besides the man who attacks him in his apartment, the helicopter gunman, and Pam and Esmeralda, there is Guan Yin, a deadly sword fighter who usually cuts him down with a single strike. Then there is Kaboom, a short assassin who loves using bombs. Another killer, Smiley. There are also the dangerous German twins, and another assassin who looks so much like Roy that he simply calls him Roy number 2. Sometimes Roy manages to kill a few of them before they can reach him, but it never changes the final result. No matter what he does, the remaining assassins always find him and kill him before the day is over. Roy believes the only person who might know the truth is his ex-wife, Gemma Wells. She works at a company called Dynow Laboratories. Every time Roy calls her office, her boss, Colonel Clive Ventor, answers the phone instead. Ventor tells Roy that Gemma died in an accident, but Roy refuses to believe that story. Deep down, he is convinced that Ventor is the one who had her killed. Unfortunately, Roy never survives long enough to discover the truth. In the loops where Roy successfully escapes the bus and the assassins, he always heads to Jake's diner. He has to get there quickly because there is only one empty seat left at the counter. If he arrives too late, the seat is taken by Dai Feng, a world champion swordmaster, whom Jake secretly admires. Roy orders drink after drink and gets completely drunk while listening to a man named Dave, who sits beside him talking nonstop about government secrets, internal security, and strange conspiracy theories. Roy has heard the same conversation so many times that he already knows every word before Dave even says it. But at exactly 12:47 p.m., the assassins always arrive at the diner. They surround Roy and kill him in the middle of the restaurant. No matter how hard he tries, he has never survived even 1 minute past this moment. He has also tried avoiding the diner completely and taking different routes, but that only causes the assassins to find and kill him even earlier. There seems to be no escape. As Roy is once again shot down by every assassin at the diner, his mind goes back to the day before this nightmare began. He remembers visiting his ex-wife, Gemma Wells, at Dynow Laboratories after she left him a message asking him to come because her company was hiring him. This memory may finally hold the key to why he is trapped inside this endless time loop. The memory continues as Roy remembers what happened that day at Dynow Laboratories. Instead of looking at his resume or talking to him after so much time apart, Gemma starts measuring his height and quietly takes a sample of his hair. When she pulls it out, it even draws a little blood. Roy finds this strange, but he has no idea why she is doing it. At the same time, Colonel Clive Ventor and his bodyguard, Brett, are secretly watching everything through the building's security cameras. Roy notices a huge machine Gemma has been working on and asks what it is. At first, she tries to avoid the question, but then she tells him something shocking. She says the machine has the power to affect all of time and space. If it is used the wrong way, it could even destroy the entire planet. Roy thinks she is being dramatic, but Gemma looks completely serious. A few moments later, Roy brings up something much more personal. He starts talking about their son, Joe. Joe has no idea that Roy is actually his father. He has always been told that Roy is only a family friend. Roy admits that he made a huge mistake in the past by choosing his military career over his family. He knows he lost Gemma because of that, and he accepts accepts it, but he begs her to let him be a part of Joe's life. He says he may not deserve another chance with her, but he at least deserves a chance to be a father. Before Gemma can answer, Brett suddenly walks in. He reminds her that Roy is standing inside a restricted area where visitors are not allowed. Gemma quickly says she has permission from Ventor to bring Roy here. When Roy tries to hand Brett his resume, Brett laughs and says the company is not hiring anyone. Roy instantly realizes that Gemma lied just to get him inside the building. Before Brett can reveal anything else, Gemma quickly sends Roy away. As Roy is leaving, Gemma stops him one last time. She quietly tells him that she has already sent him a birthday present. She says it is extremely important that he opens it. Then she gives him one final clue. Remember Osiris. Roy has no idea what she means, but her words stay in his mind. After Roy leaves, Ventor becomes worried. Roy has seen too much inside the lab, especially the strange machine. He cannot risk anyone finding out about his secret project, so he orders Brett to get rid of Roy. Right after that, Ventor calls Gemma into his office. He angrily scolds her for breaking security rules by bringing Roy into the lab. It is clear that he no longer trusts her. Later that night, Roy goes to a bar and meets a woman named Alice, who works as a dental hygienist. He takes her back to his apartment for another one-night stand. The bartender watches him leave and says, Roy will never be happy because he is still in love with Gemma, no matter how hard he tries to move on. While Alice is in the bathroom, Roy's phone suddenly rings. It is Gemma. She sounds frightened and tells Roy she is about to do something dangerous. She says she needs his help immediately. Before she can explain anything else, the call is suddenly cut off. Ventor has intercepted it. Roy can tell something is terribly wrong, but instead of rushing to help Gemma or calling her back, he ignores the warning and spends the rest of the night with Alice. It is a decision he will regret again and again. Meanwhile, back at the laboratory, Gemma takes the hair and blood sample she secretly collected from Roy earlier. She places it inside a small tube and inserts it into the mysterious machine. Ventor sees everything through the security cameras. The moment he realizes what Gemma is doing, he knows she has turned against him. Without wasting any time, he orders Brett to stop her. That was the last normal night of Roy's life before he became trapped inside the endless time loop. Back in the present, after remembering all of this, Roy suddenly realizes something important. In every previous loop, he completely forgot about the birthday present Gemma told him to open. This time, he finally opens it. Inside the package, he finds a book called Iset and Osiris. On the inside cover, Gemma has written a short message. Time waits for no man. Roy knows this message is not random. It must be another clue. He becomes so focused on the book that he forgets his usual routine. Because of that mistake, the assassins kill him twice more before he finally manages to escape with the book. During one of the loops, he notices something he somehow missed all these years. The stolen car he always drives has a hidden button. When he presses it, the car suddenly goes much faster than before. The extra speed makes him miss the usual exit that leads to Jake's diner. He accidentally ends up at the underground Atlanta Mall. Since no assassins have caught up with him yet, Roy sits down and starts reading Iset and Osiris. He cannot understand why Gemma wanted him to read this old story, or how it connects to the time loop, but before he can figure it out, something catches his eye. He sees a young boy walking through the mall. It is his son, Joe. Roy watches him from a distance as Joe buys something from an older teenager, and for the first time in countless loops, Roy decides to follow him instead of waiting for the assassins to find him. As Roy watches from a distance, he suddenly realizes something painful. Now that Gemma is gone, Joe is the only family he has left. He decides not to let him walk away this time and quietly follows him into an arcade where esports tournaments are being played. Something strange happens as Roy walks through the arcade. Every screen he passes suddenly starts glitching for a few seconds. Roy doesn't notice it because all of his attention is on Joe. Roy walks over and asks Joe why he skipped school. Then he asks what he just bought from the older teenager. For a moment, Roy thinks it might be drugs, but Joe shows him that they are only trading game cards. Feeling a little embarrassed, Roy apologizes and invites Joe to have lunch with him. As they leave the mall together, Roy checks the time. It is 12:50 p.m. He freezes. This is the longest he has ever survived since the time loop began. He has finally lived past the moment where he always dies at Jake's diner. Roy quickly starts thinking about what changed this time. Then it suddenly hits him. The assassins must have placed a tracker somewhere on his body. The metal walls inside the diner and the underground location of the shopping mall must have blocked the signal, stopping the killers from finding him. Before he can think any further, the assassins finally arrive. They open fire without warning. Roy instantly jumps in front of Joe and uses his own body as a shield. He takes every bullet meant for his son. As he dies in Joe's arms, Roy finally tells him the truth. "I'm your father." A second later, he dies, and the day starts over once again. In the next loop, Roy immediately grabs the assassin. The man refuses to answer. Later, Roy reaches Jake's diner and goes straight to the bathroom. He carefully checks his entire body. Then he remembers Dave, the man who always talks about security systems and conspiracy theories. Roy asks him, "If you wanted to hide a tracker inside someone, where would you put it?" Without even thinking, Dave answers, "In the teeth." The answer brings back a forgotten memory. Roy remembers the night he met Alice, the dental hygienist. He remembers lying unconscious in a dentist's chair while Brett stood nearby watching. It was never a normal date. The whole thing had been a trap from the very beginning. Roy quickly borrows a pair of pliers from Jake and takes them into the bathroom. He starts pulling out his own teeth one by one. The pain is unbearable, but he refuses to stop. Finally, inside one of his teeth, he finds a tiny tracking device. Before he even has time to celebrate, Roy number 2 suddenly appears and kills him. The day resets again. This time, Roy visits Alice before anything else happens. She admits that Brett paid her to secretly place the tracker inside one of Roy's teeth. Now Roy finally knows exactly what to do. He follows his usual routine, reaches Jake's diner, removes the tooth with the hidden tracker, and takes it to an abandoned building. He leaves the tracker there as bait. His plan works perfectly. A little later, Pam arrives, believing Roy is hiding inside the building. Roy catches her by surprise and demands to know who hired all the assassins. Pam refuses to answer. Without hesitation, Roy shoots her with her own pistol, ending her hunt forever. Even after finally getting rid of the tracker, Roy still feels empty. He knows Gemma trapped him inside this time loop for an important reason. But no matter how many times he repeats the day, he can never go back far enough to save her. Since he cannot save the person he loved most, Roy decides there is only one thing left to do: revenge. Now that the assassins can no longer track him, Roy starts enjoying his new freedom. Loop after loop, he hunts them down instead. One by one, he learns their fighting styles, their habits, and their weaknesses. After repeating the same battles hundreds of times, he becomes almost impossible to defeat. He kills every assassin that once hunted him. After taking Kaboom's phone, Roy calls Brett himself. He calmly tells Brett that soon he will come for both him and Colonel Ventor. Then Roy drives straight to Dino Laboratories. He tries to smash through the front gate with his car. The plan fails. His car crashes before reaching the entrance, and Brett quickly shoots him dead. The day resets again, but Roy refuses to give up. Over the next countless loops, he keeps trying new plans to break into Dino. Sometimes he fills his car with explosives and sends it toward the building as a distraction. Other times, he disguises himself as Roy number 2 after stealing his ID. Getting inside the building is only the beginning. Each failed attempt teaches Roy something new. He memorizes every guard's position, every security camera, every locked door, and every patrol route. Loop after loop, he keeps improving until he knows the entire building better than the people who work there. Finally, after hundreds of attempts, Roy manages to sneak weapons into the laboratory without anyone noticing, bringing him one step closer to facing Brett and Colonel Ventor once and for all. After sneaking into Dino Laboratories, Roy discovers that the guards are no longer a challenge. He already knows all their patrol routes and can get past them without any trouble. But there is still one person standing between him and Ventor, Guan Yin. She is an incredible sword fighter, and every time Roy faces her, she defeats him with ease. No matter how many times he tries, he simply cannot match her skills. Whenever that happens, Colonel Ventor walks over to Roy and gives the same speech every single time. He proudly talks about his plan to rewrite history and create a better future by controlling time itself. Then, he calmly kills Roy. After hearing this speech over and over again, Roy finally notices something important. Ventor calls the project the Osiris Spindle. The name immediately reminds Roy of the message Gemma left inside the book. Remember Osiris. At that moment, everything finally starts to make sense. Roy realizes that Ventor has no idea the machine is already working. He also understands that Gemma did not trap him in the time loop by accident. She did it on purpose. She wanted Roy to become the Osiris she mentioned, the one person who could stop Ventor before he destroyed the world. For the first time since the loop began, Roy finally has hope. He knows what Gemma believed he could become, and he refuses to let her down. So Roy starts another series of loops with a completely different plan. After following his usual routine and removing the tracker from his tooth, he walks over to Dai Feng, the world champion swordmaster he always sees at Jake's diner. Instead of ignoring her, Roy asks her to teach him how to fight with a sword. At first, Dai Feng is surprised by the strange request. She she agrees to train him. For countless loops, Roy spends every spare moment practicing with her, day after day, loop after loop. He learns every movement, every block, and every attack. Each time he dies, he keeps all the experience he gained. Slowly but surely, he becomes one of the best swordsmen in the world. After sincerely thanking her for everything she taught him, he heads back to Dino Laboratories for one final attempt. This time, when Guan Yin attacks him, the fight is completely different. Instead of using guns or trying to run away, Roy pulls out a sword. The two master swordsmen clash in an intense battle, but this time Roy knows every move. He blocks every attack and easily stays one step ahead. To prove how much he has improved, he even slices off Guan Yin's ponytail before delivering the final blow. Using her own sword, Roy stabs Guan Yin and finally defeats the assassin who had killed him so many times. A few moments later, Brett and Ventor rush into the room. Brett attacks first, but Roy ends the fight almost instantly by driving his sword straight into Brett's forehead. Now, only Ventor is left. The two men begin a brutal hand-to-hand fight. Ventor eventually reaches for a gun, hoping to end everything. But Roy reacts first. He grabs his sword and drives it through Ventor's hand, pinning it to the floor. Looking directly into Ventor's eyes, the past should stay exactly as it is because people are supposed to learn from their mistakes. Ventor laughs. He hints that Joe is already in danger. Roy's face fills with rage. Without another word, he kills Ventor once and for all. Thinking everything is finally over, Roy rushes to the shopping mall to save his son. But when he arrives, he is too late. Police officers have already surrounded the area. Joe is lying on the ground, dead. Roy desperately tries to reach him, but the officers hold him back. As he struggles against them, he realizes something heartbreaking. This has probably happened in many previous loops while he was too busy chasing Ventor to notice. Then something terrifying happens. A massive bright light suddenly appears across the horizon. The Osiris spindle destroys the world. Roy finally understands the full tragedy. Gemma died because he ignored her desperate phone call on the night she needed him most. Instead of helping her, he chose to spend the night with Alice. Now Gemma is gone, Joe is dead, and the world is ending. Feeling completely broken, Roy spends the next several loops without caring anymore. He stops fighting. He lets the assassins kill him again and again. One morning, as the assassins attack him once again, Roy finally decides he has wasted enough time feeling sorry for himself. He cannot change the past, but he can still make the most of every new day he is given. Instead of hunting killers or chasing revenge, Roy goes straight to the shopping mall to find Joe. He picks up his son, skips school with him, and spends the entire day together. They play video games. They laugh together. They eat lunch. They enjoy the time they never had as father and son. Roy repeats this in loop after loop, making new memories with Joe every single day. Even though he knows the world will end before the day is over, those few happy hours become the most important part of his life. Every evening, the bright light appears once again. The world comes to an end, and the same day begins all over again. Roy keeps spending every loop with Joe, trying to be the father he never got the chance to become. He wants to tell Joe the truth, that he is his real father, but every time the moment comes, he loses his courage. He is afraid of ruining the little time they have together. The loops continue one after another. By loop 249, Roy and Joe have become much closer. While they are talking, Roy casually asks Joe about Gemma and her work at Dino Laboratories. Joe says something that completely shocks him. He tells Roy that he actually spoke to his mother early that same morning because she had not come home the night before. Roy freezes. Until now, he always believed Gemma had been killed during the night, but Joe's words prove she was still alive after Roy woke up. That means she can still be saved. The next time the day resets, Roy immediately changes his plan. Instead of following his normal routine, he sneaks into Dino Laboratories and confronts Ventor and Brett much earlier than before. Holding them at gunpoint, he demands to know what really happened to Gemma. Under pressure, Brett finally tells the truth. He says Gemma secretly sabotaged the Osiris spindle. Because of what she did, the machine has become unstable, and they can no longer control the chain reaction it started. Ventor suddenly understands what is happening. He realizes Roy has been able to repeat the same day because the Osiris spindle is already working. Gemma used Roy as the machine's missing piece, making him the key to the entire experiment. Roy quickly checks the laboratory's security cameras. There, he finally discovers the exact moment Gemma dies. She is killed only 14 minutes after Roy wakes up. 14 minutes. That is all the time he has. Without wasting another second, Roy shoots himself to restart the loop. Now he has one final mission. Not revenge, not survival, saving Gemma. As always, the first assassin breaks into his apartment. Roy kills him within seconds. But this time, instead of following his usual escape route, he jumps straight out of the window and lands on the helicopter. He throws the gunman out of the aircraft, points a gun at the pilot, and orders him to fly to Dino Laboratories as fast as possible. The helicopter reaches the building in record time. Outside the entrance, several assassins are already waiting for him. Roy opens fire without slowing down. Within seconds, every assassin is dead. From the pile of bodies, he picks up another gun and takes Guan Yin's sword. Then he storms into the building. Every guard who stands in his way is taken down as Roy races through the laboratory. Finally, he reaches Gemma's lab. Inside, Brett is attacking her. Roy doesn't hesitate. He shoots Brett dead. Then he turns his gun on Ventor and kills him before he can fight back. For the first time since the nightmare began, Roy reaches Gemma while she is still alive. The two finally reunite. Looking at Roy with a small smile, Gemma quietly asks, "How many tries did it take you to save me?" Roy smiles back and lies. "Just one," but Gemma knows him too well. As Roy starts talking about Joe, mentioning things that only someone who had spent hundreds of days with him could possibly know, she immediately understands the truth. She realizes Roy has been trapped inside the time loop for a very long time. Roy assures her that Joe is safe and that none of the assassins are coming after him anymore. Gemma then explains everything. She says there is no way to stop the Osiris spindle anymore. The only option is to restart it. When she built the machine, she secretly designed the missing part to match Roy's DNA. That is why Roy became trapped inside the loop. If Roy steps inside the Osiris spindle now, the machine should reset one final time and allow time to move forward normally again. But there is one problem. Gemma is not completely sure it will work. Everything is only a theory. She built the machine in a hurry while trying to stop Ventor, and this is the first time anyone has ever made it work. If the reset succeeds, the time loop will finally end. But if Roy dies after that, he will stay dead forever. There will be no more second chances. Roy thinks about everything he has learned during hundreds of loops. He knows exactly when every assassin attacks. He knows how to protect Joe. He knows how to save Gemma. For the first time, he truly believes he can save the people he loves without needing another reset. He gently kisses Gemma goodbye. Then, without any hesitation, Roy walks toward the Osiris spindle. He steps inside the machine, ready to risk his life one last time. As the machine powers up around him, Roy closes his eyes and waits, hoping that when he opens them again, the endless time loop will finally be over, and time will move forward for the very last time. And with that, the story of Boss Level comes to an end. Subscribe to Crown Recaps and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our next movie recap. Thanks for watching.